Once upon a time, the port of Los Angeles was like a shining pearl embedded on the west coast of the United States. As the largest and busiest container port in the country, it served as a crucial hub for global trade, vividly demonstrating a thriving and prosperous scene around the clock. Gigantic cargo ships frequented its waters, the machinery for loading and unloading goods operated in an orderly manner, and countless trucks shuttled back and forth, transporting goods not only across the United States, but also to all corners of the world. However, the trade hub that was once full of vitality and hustle and bustle is now enveloped in a thick and oppressive atmosphere of depression. The prime culprit behind all this is the radical and short-sighted tariff policy of the US government. Under the wanton waving of the seemingly imposing, but actually self-destructive tariff baton, the port of Los Angeles has been hit harder than ever before. The cargo throughput has plummeted in a free fall, experiencing a cliff-like decline. The entire supply chain, which used to be efficient and smooth, has instantaneously been thrown into unprecedented chaos and disarray. Dock workers and truck drivers have become the direct victims of this policy disaster. Their lives have been mercilessly drawn into the whirlpool, their livelihoods shattered by this tempest, and their futures filled with uncertainty and anxiety. Stepping into the port of Los Angeles nowadays, one is greeted with a heart-rending sight. The long dragon of trucks that once stretched for miles, as magnificent as a giant serpent, has vanished without a trace. In its place are the desolate and deserted docks and the rusty, neglected idle trucks. These silent steel behemoths are like forsaken warriors, wordlessly recounting the past glory and present predicament of the industry. Back then, I could easily make several trips a day, and my income was fairly stable. But now, it's almost impossible to get even a single order. I really don't know how to make ends meet, sighed a weather-beaten truck driver, his eyes revealing a mixture of helplessness and confusion as he shook his head dejectedly. Logistics workers like Montalvo are struggling desperately in the tempestuous waves of this crisis, much like a solitary boat adrift in the stormy sea. As an ordinary yet responsible member of the nearly 900,000 logistics workforce in Southern California and the owner of a small transportation company, Montalvo is currently under enormous cost pressure that is almost unbearable. The price of a Chinese-made component on his truck, which was originally reasonable, has now almost skyrocketed to double its original amount. For him, who was already operating on thin profit margins and struggling to survive in the fierce market competition, this is an additional and severe blow. This 37-year-old entrepreneur, who should have been full of energy and hope, now wears a face full of exhaustion and anger. He angrily accused, "Trump has created a catastrophic and despairing environment for us. We are extremely disappointed in him. He simply doesn't care about the lives of ordinary people and turns a blind eye to our hardships." Montalvo even pessimistically predicted that due to the soaring maintenance costs, which are running wild like an unbridled horse, and the pitifully reduced business volume, his company, into which he has poured his heart and soul, may have to make the painful decision of laying off employees within just 6 months. This means that many people who, like him, have been striving hard for their lives will lose their jobs. It is truly a pity that Montalvo was once a staunch supporter of Trump. He had high hopes that this president could use his tough measures to solve the long-standing problem of inflation and bring them a better life. Now, it seems that tariffs are even more terrifying than inflation. It's simply a nightmare, he said with a bitter smile, his eyes filled with disappointment and regret. Another veteran truck driver with 20 years of experience, who has witnessed the ups and downs of the industry, pointed out incisively, "Politicians keep shouting America first at the top of their lungs. But we ordinary laborers are on the verge of losing our jobs. Is this what they call priority?" Many drivers have candidly admitted that originally, out of trust and support for their country, they endorsed the government's tough trade policies. However, they never expected that they would end up being the ones who suffered the most and endured the greatest pain. They have become the victims of this unwise policy. As the tariff war continues to escalate, resembling an uncontrollable raging fire, the plight of the US port and logistics industry is worsening constantly, and the situation is becoming more and more severe. The practitioners are earnestly hoping that the government can listen to their voices, pay attention to their difficulties, and re-examine these policies that, while seemingly tough, are actually foolish and self-harming. Otherwise, their lives will sink deeper into the abyss of despair. On May 3rd, the executive director of the Port of Los Angeles, Sirocco, issued a grave and worrying warning. The tariff policy has led to a continuous decline in imported goods. Starting next week, there will be an even more substantial plunge in imports. This will be an unprecedented crisis. Currently, the port's import volume has already decreased by 1/3, and it is expected to reduce by approximately 50,000 standard containers next week. Sirocco expressed his concerns, saying that this crisis has long transcended the scope of simple Sino-US trade. It is like a merciless tsunami sweeping across the globe, bringing global trade to a standstill. If the White House doesn't change its strategy and adjust its policies in a timely manner, consumers will soon be faced with the awkward situation of commodity shortages. Prices will further skyrocket like a runaway horse, and everyone's wallet will be hit hard, leading to a significant decline in the quality of life. On the same day, California's Governor, Gavin Newsom, also publicly expressed his strong dissatisfaction and firm opposition to Trump's tariff policies. As the most economically developed and dynamic state in the United States, California took the lead in opposing these short-sighted policies that harm its own interests. It even went so far as to take the Trump administration to court and file a lawsuit against it. Newsom bluntly stated, "California is not a place where Trump can have the final say. We have always maintained an open attitude towards China because openness and cooperation are the undeniable truths for development." He sharply pointed out that these tariff measures not only severely damage the healthy development of California's economy, but also pose a serious threat to the largest economy in the United States, just like chiseling cracks into a once solid building. California's stance vividly reveals the significant rifts and profound differences within the United States regarding trade policies. It also reflects the American society's longing for rational and practical policies. In fact, Trump's tariff policies have not only dealt a heavy blow to US ports, pushing important ports like the Port of Los Angeles into a difficult situation, but the recently introduced punitive fee plan targeting Chinese ships has taken trade protectionism to a new extreme. It's like stabbing another harsh blow into the already strained international trade relations. Although this measure has been somewhat relaxed compared to the initial proposal, it still has been strongly condemned by the international community and has become the target of widespread criticism. During the hearing in March, numerous shipping enterprises, international organizations, and industry associations submitted their letters of opposition. They used powerful arguments and clear logic to denounce the absurdity and unreasonableness of this policy. The CEO of a shipping freight forwarding company in Florida sharply pointed out in a letter of opposition, the accusation that China threatens the US maritime industry is completely baseless and a lie fabricated by certain people with ulterior motives. The development of the shipbuilding industries in China, South Korea, Japan, and other countries is aimed at meeting the global trade demand, filling the market gap, and promoting the prosperity of global trade. We should be grateful to them instead of suppressing them without cause. He also warned that once the punitive fees are implemented, it will be like a devastating disaster. A large number of small and medium-sized US enterprises will be unable to withstand the cost pressure and go out of business. Tens of thousands of people will lose their jobs as a result. Families will fall into economic difficulties, and social instability factors will increase. More importantly, attempting to revitalize the US shipbuilding industry through these policies is nothing but a pipe dream. It's like trying to build a skyscraper on sandy ground. The United States has already lost its commercial shipbuilding capacity for over 100 years. This is a fact that cannot be changed overnight and is not something that can be reversed by simple policies. Now, the United States is standing at a crucial crossroads, facing difficult choices. In May and June, US ports will face a severe shortage of Chinese goods. There will be numerous empty spaces on the shelves, and consumers will have far fewer choices. At the same time, the US debt crisis is approaching step by step, like the sword of Damocles hanging over their heads, ready to fall at any moment. The Trump administration is confronted with a thorny problem. Who will buy the US Treasury bonds issued by the Federal Reserve? If there are no takers, should they resort to printing money to solve the problem? This will undoubtedly trigger even more severe inflation, adding a heavy burden to the already precarious US economic edifice and accelerating the decline of the US dollar. This tariff war has finally made Americans realize firsthand that goods won't magically appear on supermarket shelves, and achieving self-sufficiency is by no means an easy task that can be accomplished overnight. Trump seemingly imitated Roosevelt's New Deal, but he completely reversed the order of things. During Roosevelt's era, the US manufacturing industry was strong, but there was insufficient consumption. Therefore, taxes were increased and consumption was stimulated to balance the economic structure. However, now the United States is facing a problem of insufficient supply, yet Trump did the opposite by imposing heavy taxes. This is tantamount to planting a time bomb in the US economy, which could trigger a major economic disaster at any time. When the cranes at the port of Los Angeles gradually stop roaring and countless truck drivers worrying about their livelihoods, what we witness is not just the decline of a port. It is also the failure of US trade policies and the deep-seated contradictions in the economic structure. In this tariff war with no winners, it is ultimately millions of ordinary laborers who pay the price. Their lives are changed, and their dreams are shattered. How should the United States proceed in the future? Perhaps, as demonstrated by California, openness and cooperation are the only way out. Only by abandoning trade protectionism and strengthening international cooperation can the US economy get out of the predicament and move towards prosperity again. Thank you for watching this episode. If you find the content valuable, you are welcome to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support is the driving force for us to keep moving forward, inspiring us to bring you more in-depth and valuable content. See you in the next episode.